Hello everyone, this is Matt from Tabletop Japan, and today I will be introducing a couple of RPG books that I picked up recently. So these two books are Into the Wild and Into the Cess and Citadel, and they're written by Charles Ferguson Avery and Alex Coggan and Charlie Ferguson Avery again. And I believe they are published by Wet Ink Games, along with some stuff from Feral Indie Studio on the back. Okay, so I picked both of these up from the 2022 GameFound campaign, which was for Into the Cess and Citadel, but I added Wyrd and Wyrd as an add-on so I could get them both at the same time. And they came through earlier this year in 2023. Okay, so my plan is to make a quick video on each, just flicking through and giving my thoughts on them. So let's start with Into the Wyrd and Wyrd. Okay, so basically what this book is it's a system neutral set of rules and kind of ideas to add into your RPG campaign. So let's start off talking about the construction of the book first. You see, very, very beautifully made, kind of matte black cover, but no fingerprints stuck on it yet from me, so that's doing good so far. It's got a couple of ribbon bookmarks, and it comes in at about 231 pages. And I believe it is stitch bound, or I'm not sure whatever the word is, but it's the high quality one, the one that lays flat, so it should be quite sturdily made. So, like I was saying, first section is just kind of explaining about how the book is laid out. Yep, it's system neutral. It uses a lot of the kind of rules and vocabulary that you'd associate with OSR games. So your turns, rounds, saving on these 6 different stats down here. And it uses a roll under system. But that's easily changeable for other RPG systems you might be using. Yeah. So let's go into the first section. So this section is kind of, like it says here, a toy box. It has like a bunch of different rules that you can add into your campaign to kind of help add to the feeling of exploring a kind of magical wilderness, right? So rules about supplies, changing your golds into a more abstract form of supplies, using those supplies as kind of resources for survival, exhaustion, having the wilderness be its own kind of enemy, it's kind of slowly draining the life out of your party. Rules for camping, surviving the night, hunting, cleaning a body, getting kind of resources from it. This is pretty cool, quite flavorful. Phases of the moon, how that could change. Kind of random encounters, different phases being more dangerous than others. Call of the Wild, so having kind of mutations for your characters if they spend too long out there. Getting lost, going mad. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I would use all of these, but the way that they're laid out is really quite useful that you could just use 1 or 2 if you wanted to. So I would probably end up using the moon phases, mutations, and probably the gold supplies as well, just to kind of introduce my RPG to the new kind of magical wilderness they found themselves in. The next section, Beasts of Branchmon, is a kind of bestiary of different creatures. So stat blocks, hit dice, armor class, all kind of easily transferable to whatever system you need. So most of the book is black and white, but it is color in some areas, like the spider and a nice blue one there. Some of these horrible looking creatures. This is one issue I did notice. When I checked on the PDF, there's a creature up here, but in my copy, for some reason, it's not printed correctly. No big deal, but it would be nice to have it some kind of printing error with this print run, I guess. Let me find one of my favorite ones. Here, right? So I'm out of this page because this is a quite cool one called The Moonslaver. So what this is kind of, Dark Souls, moonlight butterfly. It kind of flies down, kind of entices people over to it, and then it turns them into kind of mindless zombies and tries to turn the party against each other. Last of Us, mycelium zombies. Yeah, lots of horrific and dangerous creatures to throw at the party. Lots of imagination as well. They aren't the kind of standard set of creatures you'd normally come across. This one's cool as well. So this one, I believe, has a very high difficulty level. It's a kind of creature that jumps between the trees and is always lurking just out of sight. It kind of hunts those who are greedy or kind of fail in their morals in some way, and then it kind of hunts them down and then kills off their closest friends. Yeah. So it uses the trees as doorways and comes out as well. This enemy here is kind of the big boss, I think, included in the book, but yeah, gives 20,000 XP for killing it. Big boys like this. So yeah, I believe what they do is try to defend the wilderness against people who are trying to take advantage of it, right? So yeah, a Grim King is born when someone tries to take power from the wilds. And these are incredibly strong, kind of dangerous, terrifying creatures. A big color page here. The next section is on the factions. So we have the Court of Broken Branches, the Children of A. Criomaran, I don't know how to say that. The Ruin, which I guess is more of like a kind of aggressive, bestial faction. Wild Elves, kind of Pixies, Midsummer Night's Dream. Yeah, Schemers. And then this one being kind of cool, the Primal Wheel. So what this one is it's just saying that there's a series of almost gods or primal forces associated with different aspects of the forest. So fire, blood, hope. And no one really knows about them, but people study them and they spend their lives dedicated to them and they go crazy trying to find their names. It's got kind of mechanics for that, finding their names. And then when you find their true name, you can call upon them to maybe help you. Magical item section. Cool ones in here. What I like about all of these magical items is that they're not powerful in a direct way that you get in the Dungeon Master's Guide for Dungeons and Dragons, for example. Right, so where's an example? Here it is, the Louse Tamer Comb, right? So running this comb through hair causes all lice, ticks, bugs, and fleas present in it to fall utterly under your control. They can be ordered to attack enemies, sending them into a frenzy of scratching and disorienting itchiness. As well, depending on the amount of vermin under your control, they can be used to accomplish small tasks. So yeah, that's quite cool. Not directly powerful for combat, but still gives the player characters options for using it in kind of imaginative ways. One more cool item down here, the Traveler's Cloak. So made from countless haphazard patches of cuts of cloth with hundreds of crudely sewn pockets brimming with parchment and scrap paper. A cloak belonging to an intrepid and utterly daft traveller. You will always find your way in this cloak, although whether this was where you intended to go in the first place is debatable. Yeah, so while wearing this cloak, you may reach into its pockets to reveal a map, note, or sketch containing a random point of interest or piece of small information. So this is kind of a built-in way to give your characters plot hooks and kind of quests where they could head to, and kind of a get out of jail free card if they do wander and get lost. Yeah, really cool stuff. Next up, we have the magic section of the book. So a whole bunch of spells you can give them, specifically relating to the wilderness. Breath of bees, burst of briar, disgusting flesh, gentle moonlight. Yeah, all sorts of stuff that is kind of powerful and useful to the PCs, but a lot of them have their own kind of risks built in as well, and it's all very flavorful and thematic. One area that's quite cool here is channeling the Wyrd. So what this does is it allows them to try and cast spells that they might not even know, but as a risk, they have to roll a d6, compare it to the level of spell, and if the roll is greater than the spell level, then they're okay. But if it's less than the level, they suffer one of these effects, which is anything from losing all their limbs to suffering the tree wielding, growing a second face on the back of your head, as much as rolling a 12, they're transformed into a Grim King, one of those big creatures that I spoke about earlier. So next up we have the Dungeon Generator. So this is quite an imaginative and cool section in terms of adding mechanics to your wilderness. And basically what it says is to imagine the forest or the wilderness or the wilds as a dungeon in itself. So you don't need to worry about your underground stone corridors and that. Have the forest itself become the dungeon. And it gives you kind of rules to generate that. So you drop a bunch of dice on the map, and then you can roll some more dice, record the number. That is the number of trails that connect to it. You connect them up however you want. Different types of trails, depending on the number on the dice, once again there. Connect to the entrance of the hex, connect the paths up, and then, yeah, you end up with a large, well, you end up with a one section here, and then you can expand as much as you want to kind of create your wilderness. I think this is a very simple and kind of useful way to create your own wilderness. And this kind of makes it very simple. Okay. We have a section on the flora, some diseases, some hazards and traps. This reminds me very much of Hot Springs Island, another kind of system neutral resource that has all this kind of flora and fauna and diseases built into that. Yeah, very useful stuff. Still very flavorful. So what is it? The Euphoria stream. So it's a stream that basically when you bathe in it, you feel very happy and you end up drowning yourself, which is very cool once again. Finally, we get to a bunch of random tables for searching bodies, random trails, wilderness dungeon, all that stuff. Good for any RPG resource to have, I think. And lastly, sorry, lastly, this is the last thing. We have 100 Wyrd locations, which are very cool, again, flavorful little places that you can just throw into whatever campaign you're doing. So let's have a look at this one. The Singer's Domain. The copse of trees seems like any other. The only noticeable difference is a lack of animals or insects. A closer inspection reveals old signs of violence and occasional decaying bones. At night, the dreams of travelers through this area are plagued with a hollow, high-pitched sound, almost resembling a song. Day after day, they begin to hear this sound while they're awake. The sound pushes them to acts of violence and self-destruction. This is all at the behest of the singers, strange beings who live in the dirt and call this place home. They hate all visitors. Fantastic. D100. You get to meet this dragon guy. Got a little appendix at the back. Got sheets for when you generate your own place. Further reading. Influenced by a lot of good movies and games. Annihilation, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Terror, Ritual. And a nice little index to help you find whatever you're looking for. That is it. So that is Into the Wild by Charles Ferguson Avery. So overall thoughts. I think this is a fantastic resource to generate and gamify magical dark wilderness. And there's enough stuff in this book that you could maybe even set a whole campaign, or at least an arc of a campaign, in this magical forest. Lots of kind of dark, twisted ideas to kind of give you, lots of dark and twisted stuff to kind of jumpstart your imagination. Even if you don't want to use the rules in this, I think this is an absolutely wonderful book to have and look through. Yeah, and I'm really excited to one day run a story arc in something like this. Okay, thanks for watching. Next, we're going to look at Into the Assassin Citadel. Bye.